Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chapter 25. Devastating Rainfall in Vrindavan. When Indra understood that the sacrifice which was to be offered by the cowherd men in Vrindavan had been stopped by Krishna, he became angry, and he vented his anger upon the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who were headed by Nanda Maharaj, although Indra knew perfectly well that Krishna was personally protecting them. As the director of different kinds of clouds, Indra called for the Samvartaka. This cloud is invited when there is a need to devastate the whole cosmic manifestation. The Samvartaka was ordered by Indra to go over Vrindavan and inundate the whole area with an extensive flood. Demonically, Indra thought himself to be the all-powerful Supreme Personality. When demons become very powerful, they defy the Supreme Controller, the Personality of Godhead. Indra, though not a demon, was puffed up by his material position, and he wanted to challenge the Supreme Controller. He thought himself, at least for the time being, as powerful as Krishna. Indra said, "Just see the impudence of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. They are simply inhabitants of the forest, but being infatuated with their friend Krishna, who is nothing but an ordinary human being, they have dared to defy the demigods." Krishna has declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of the demigods are not very intelligent. He has also declared that one has to give up all kinds of demigod worship and simply concentrate on Krishna consciousness. Krishna's invoking the anger of Indra and later on chastising him is a clear indication to his devotees that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness have no need to worship any demigod, even if he is found that the demigod has become angry. Krishna gives his devotees all protection, and they should completely depend on his mercy. Indra cursed the action of the inhabitants of Vrindavan and said, "By defying the authority of the demigods, the inhabitants of Vrindavan will suffer in material existence. Having neglected the sacrifice to the demigods, they cannot cross over the impediments of the ocean of material existence." Indra further declared, "These coward men in Vrindavan have neglected my authority on the advice of this talkative boy who is known as Krishna. He's nothing but a child, and by believing this child, they have enraged me." Thus, he ordered the Samvartaka cloud to go and destroy the prosperity of Vrindavan. "The men of Vrindavan," Indra said, "have become too puffed up over their material opulence and are overconfident due to the presence of their tiny friend Krishna. He's simply talkative, childish, and unaware of the complete cosmic situation, although he is thinking himself very advanced in knowledge. Because they have taken Krishna so seriously, they must be punished. They should be destroyed with their cows." In this way, Indra ordered the Samvartaka cloud to go to Vrindavan and inundate the place. It is indicated here that in the villages or outside the towns, inhabitants must depend on the cows for their prosperity. When the cows are destroyed, the people are destitute of all kinds of opulences. When King Indra ordered the Samvartaka and companion clouds to go to Vrindavan, the clouds were afraid of doing this mischief. But King Indra assured them, "You go ahead, and I will also go, riding on my elephant, accompanied by great storms, and I shall apply all my strength to punishing the inhabitants of Vrindavan." Ordered by Krishna, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vrindavan and began to pour water incessantly with all their strength and power. There was constant lightning and thunder, blowing of severe winds, and incessant falling of rain. The rain seemed to fall like piercing sharp arrows. By pouring water as thick as pillars without cessation, the clouds gradually filled all the lands in Vrindavan with water, and there was no visible distinction between higher and lower land. The situation was very dangerous, especially for the animals. The rainfall was accompanied by great winds, and every living creature in Vrindavan began to tremble from the severe cold. Unable to find any other source of deliverance, they all approached Govinda to take shelter at his lotus feet. The cows especially, being much aggrieved from the heavy rain, bowed down their heads, and taking their calves underneath their bodies, they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to pray to Lord Krishna. Dear Krishna, they prayed, you are all powerful and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Now please protect us, who have been much harassed by angry Indra. Upon hearing their prayer, Krishna could understand that Indra, being bereft of his sacrificial honor, was pouring down rain that was accompanied by heavy pierces of ice and strong winds. Although all this was out of season, Krishna understood that this was a deliberate exhibition of anger by Indra. He therefore concluded, this demigod who thinks himself supreme has shown his great power, but I shall answer him according to my position, and I shall teach him that he is not autonomous in managing universal affairs. I am the supreme lord over all, and I shall thus take away his false prestige, which has risen from his power. The demigods are my devotees, and therefore it is not possible for them to forget my supremacy. But somehow or other he has become puffed up with material power, and thus is now maddened. I shall act in such a way as to relieve him of this false prestige. I shall give him protection. I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vrindavan, who are at present completely dependent on my mercy, and whom I have taken completely under my protection. I must save them by my mystic power. Thinking in this way, Lord Krishna immediately picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand, exactly as a child picks a mushroom from the ground. Thus, he exhibited his transcendental pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill. Lord Krishna then addressed his devotees. My dear brothers, my dear father, my dear inhabitants of Vrindavan, you can now safely enter under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill, which I have just lifted. Do not be afraid of the hill and think that it will fall from my hand. You have been too much afflicted from the heavy rain and strong wind. Therefore, I have lifted this hill, which will protect you exactly like a huge umbrella. I think this is a proper arrangement to relieve you of your immediate distress. Be happy along with your animals underneath this great umbrella. Being assured by Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan entered beneath the great hill along with their property and animals, and they all appeared to be safe. The inhabitants of Vrindavan and their animals remained there for 1 week without being disturbed by hunger, thirst, or any other discomforts. They were simply astonished to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with the little finger on his left hand. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. He immediately called for all the clouds and asked them to desist. When the sky became completely cleared of all clouds and there was sunrise again, the strong wind stopped. At that time, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known now as the lifter of Govardhan Hill, said, my dear coward men, now you can leave and take your wives, children, cows, and valuables, because everything is ended. The inundation has gone down, along with the swelling waters of the river. All the men loaded their valuables on carts and slowly left with their cows and other paraphernalia. After they had cleared out everything, Lord Krishna very slowly replaced Govardhan Hill in exactly the same position it had been in before. When everything was done, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan approached Krishna with feelings of love and embraced him with great ecstasy. The gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him yogurt mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him. Mother Yashoda, Mother Rohini, Nanda, and Balaram, who is the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after the other, and from spontaneous feelings of affection, blessed him over and over again. In the heavens, different demigods from different planetary systems, such as Siddha Loka, Gandharva Loka, and Charana Loka, also began to show their complete satisfaction. They poured showers of flowers on the surface of the earth and sounded different conch shells. There was beatings of drums, and being inspired by godly feelings, residents of Gandharva Loka began to play on their tambourines to please the Lord. After this incident, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his dear friends and the animals, returned to his home. As usual, the gopis began to chant the glorious pastimes of Lord Krishna with great feeling, for they were chanting from the heart. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 25th chapter of Krishna, devastating rainfall in Vrindavan.
Everybody's got a spot. My apologies for the inconveniences. Inconvenience caused is regretted. The having a Vrindavan executive board meeting in the conference room. Om Jnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Miditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadati Shapadantikam Pandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanchakul Patirubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is the Indra's response to Krishna's having stopped the Indra Puja. He became angry and started to employ his powers to devastate Vrindavan. He's in charge of clouds and rain and so on. So he decided to wipe out Vrindavan. They've insulted me with their impudence. They're simply inhabitants of the forest, and they're just infatuated with their friend Krishna, who's an ordinary human being. And so now they're even defying the demigods. Who do they think they are? So in this way, he became angry. And Krishna wanted to show that to deal with such... Hare Krishna, come on. We have a spot for you up here, I guess. There's a spot here next to Matthias. And yeah, there's right in front of the camera, maybe. Not exactly in front, but there. Yeah. And Ajay Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Is Sachimata behind you? Welcome. Old friends.
They were waiting at the gate.
Hmm?
They were waiting at the gate and we just...
Oh, Well, welcome, welcome. Let's see, we have to find a spot for you. Adya, come sit here. We're short of space, so just sit next to me. And Sachimata, we need a space for you. I guess right here. Just here is okay. Can you sit up? Okay. Is that okay? Here, come sit here. We need to make use of all the real estate. Hare Krishna. And let's see what else we're doing here. And there's still, okay, everybody's all right. If we need another spot, one is opened up over here. So, yeah, you're welcome. There's a spot here if you like. Spots are opening up all over the place. Try. Hare Krishna. Okay. Good. So they've neglected the sacrifice to the demigods, so they can't cross over the impediments of the ocean of material existence. And here it's very interesting. Let's see. He's insulting Krishna that he's nothing but a talkative child, and he's, they're tiny. He's talkative, he's childish, he's unaware of the cosmic manifestation. He's, they're listening to him. Now, I don't have it right in front of me, but we know that the acharyas take all of these statements and turn them around. This is called Saraswati Bhak. Saraswati is speaking through the insults in order to praise Krishna. So let's, why not? Oh, I have a laptop. But my laptop doesn't have this file, so we won't look at the laptop. We'll do it a different way. This is, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25. So we'll do it that way. Bhagavatam. That's 21. We want 25. Let's see. Now, it's better to do it this way. This one app is good for everything, but you can only do one thing at a time. Yeah, so this is Krishna being Martyam, a human being. They've taken shelter of Martyam, and Pandit Manina, someone who thinks that he's very learned, and who's Vachalam, talkative, Balisham, childish, Stubtam, arrogant, Agyam, foolish. And let's see. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, through the insults of Indra, Goddess Saraswati is actually praising Krishna. He explains, Vachalam, talkative, means one who can speak according to Vedic authority. Balisham means free from pretension, just like a child. Stubtam means that he bows down to no one because there's no one for whom for him to offer homage to. I'm not quite sure how that's derived, but that's what he says it means. Agyam means there's nothing more for him to know. Agya, because he's omniscient. Pandit Manina means he's highly honored by the knowers of the absolute truth. So they take it, Indra's intention was Pandit Manina. He thinks he's a Pandit. He thinks he's learned. But Manina also means honored. So Pandita Manina means he's honored even by all the great knowers of the absolute truth. And he's just a child, Krishna. Krishna means he's the supreme absolute truth. And Martyam means, although he's the absolute truth, he nonetheless appears as a human being for the affection of his devotees. So, in this way, Indra has tried to insult. Do you have a place? Yeah, you're okay? Yeah, good. There's a chair. To whatever there is, please take whatever little facility we can offer. Yeah. So in this way, Indra wanted to insult Krishna by calling him all of these insulting names. And Sridhar Swami says, no, this is Saraswati praising Krishna through the mouth of Indra. Well, this happens in different parts. It's wonderful. This is how we enjoy. Tushanti cha, ramanti cha, the devotees enjoy talking about Krishna. This is one of the ways that the acharyas enjoy, by taking the meanings of words and turning them around to have a different meaning. That happened with Kadamba Maharaj's class the other day. That was one of my favorites, actually. Let's find that, because it was just too cool. Yeah, this is 10:29:19. Rajanyesha Gora Rupa Gora Sattva Nishevita Pratiyata Vrajam Neha Steam Stribi Sumajyama. The night is frightening, and frightening creatures are lurking about. Return to Braja, slender-waisted girls. This is not a proper place for women. So that's the straightforward meaning of the verse, but we're not going to be happy just taking it straightforwardly or with that obvious meaning. We have to find a different meaning. And so this is what Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur finds. Is that right? 29:19. Let's get this one right. 29:19. There's so much here that it's a little bit. Now let's take it from here. So the alternative meaning would be Rajani Esha Agora Rupa, because you have this thing in Sanskrit called sandhi. Do you know what sandhi is?
Yeah, two words come
It-
together.
It's joining. These are rules of flow. Actually, they're rules of sonic flow what's a good word for it? Yeah, to make the sounds flow right. Like we have a cow, but an insect. You wouldn't say a insect because that's awkward, right? It doesn't sound good. We say an insect, a cow. Those are some rules for making the words flow nicely. So there's words, there are rules for doing that in Sanskrit. They're called sandhi, joining. So like tat jnana, that knowledge, becomes tuj jnana because it flows off the tongue better. Like we say gonna, we don't say going to. That's too, I'm going to go here. And it's kind of countryside sandhi. So there are rules for how you do this, and they're all codified. And one of them concerns vowels that join together. So if you have like a short A next to a short A, they become a long A. They become a long A. And there are many examples. Sri Vigraha Radhana, Vigraha Aradhana. So that's a short A next to a long A. It becomes one long A. So two long A's make a long A, two short A's make a long A, and a short and a long also make a long A. So you have three ways to get a long A when two A's of different kinds come together. So that provides that lets the acharyas have a field day, because they can say, well, it's not this, it's this. It's not that, it's that. It's not a short A and a long A. It's two long A's, or it's two short A's. So they can play games like that, and that's what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur here is doing. Rajini Esha Gora Rupam, but he says no, it's Esha Agora Rupam. So Esha Gora Rupam would mean, it's the forest is very fearful. Agora Rupa, right? Yeah, the night is very fearful. But no, it's not fearful at all. Agora Rupa. And Agora Sattva Nishevita. And what is the sattva? And the animals are not at all frightening. There's deer and there's cows and there's nice animals here. So it's Agora Rupa and Satani Shevita and Pratiyata Vrajam Na Ihasteham. Now this is going to be really too cool. So there's harmless creatures like deer, Agora Sattvai, and so the night shouldn't frighten you at all. Don't worry about that. Or he might have meant, don't be afraid of your own husbands and relatives, because the night is populated by fearsome animals, so they won't come here. And then he says, this is my favorite. Pratiyata vrajam na iha stayam. Pratiyata means go back. Please return. Pratiyata vrajam, go back to Braja. Na iha, not here. Stayam. Don't stay. Staya means stay. Don't stay here. Na iha stayam. But Chakravarti Thakur takes it as, please do not go back to Braja, not Pratiyata, but stay here. Iha stayam. So he's moved the na around so that it goes with pratiya, because in Sanskrit you can do that. It's not exactly where it sits, it's kind of how it sits. So he says the na goes with pratiyata. Don't go back. Ihasteyam. Stay here. Not na ihasteyam. Stay here. Don't go back. Instead of go back, don't stay here. He's reversed it. So this is called fun. The acharyas were just, you could see, enjoying like anything, taking these statements from Srimad Bhagavatam and seeing different meanings. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took the Atmarama verse and analyzed it so many different ways, taking different meanings. Atma can mean this, Atma can mean that, Atma can mean this, and you put it together this way and this way. So this is the business of experts in Sanskrit grammar, how to derive so many meanings. So you can do that with any verse like Atmarama's Jamuniyo. When you get to verses like these describing Krishna's pastimes, then you can really relish, because you can find so many different meanings that are tasty meanings that reflect Krishna's inner intentions. There's the outer, outwardly he's telling them, no, don't stay here, go back to Vrindavan. But inwardly he's telling them, don't go back to Vrindavan, stay here. So similarly, coming back to the topic at hand, the Indra thinks he's insulting the Krishna, but in fact, he's praising Krishna in different ways by saying he's expert in speaking the words of the Vedas. He's honored even by the Pandits and so on. So that's, again, the acharyas taking pleasure in seeing how these things can be understood in different ways. So Indra sent the Samvartak cloud. The cloud invoked at the time of devastation some water, at the time of devastation, and just unleashed everything on Vrindavan. Rain and hail and piercing winds and as Prabhupada says, devastating rainfall. This is the kind of, what like we see in sometimes in the news, that some city or some part of the country has been wiped out by powerful winds and rain and floods and all of that. So that's what Indra did to Vrindavan. He just, released both barrels, he just gave it full force and sent the clouds ahead, don't worry, I'm coming, so you can go there and do all of this. So he particularly decided that the cows would be destroyed. And when the cows were destroyed, that would be it for everyone, because they're depending on the cows. These are cowherd people. So when you wipe out their cows, you wipe out their means of livelihood. And I'll go behind riding on my elephant with great storms, and we'll let them have it. So then Krishna saw that this Indra has become puffed up, but as Prabhupada said, to deal with Indra is the business of my little finger. So Krishna, with that little finger, picked up the Govardhan hill and held it like an umbrella for the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And then another favorite phrase here is that Indra was thunderstruck. an old literary phrase is hoist by one's own petard, which means blown up by your own bomb. And so then Krishna, after 7 days, put the hill back exactly where it was before, and everyone embraced Krishna, and the demigods, as usual, poured flowers and danced and played musics and so on. And the gopis all chanted the glorious pastimes of Krishna with great feeling because they were chanting from the heart, which is the idea. I'm working on a book of Prabhupada's Kirtan standards, and Prabhupada's just emphasizing that actually where I'm reading. He's talking about different tunes, and he's any tune. He said, but the main thing is your feeling. Okay, there's some questions, comments. Yes.
Hare Krishna. What did the residents of Vrindavan do while they were under the hill?
They helped. Some of them were massaging Krishna's hands. Some of them were cowherd men, or like holding their sticks aloft to keep Govardhan in place. In different ways, they're helping Krishna and fussing over Krishna and trying to provide him something to eat, and in different ways. Some of them are, and there's all these things going on between the gopis and Krishna also, because this is the first time the gopis don't get to meet with Krishna because they're either unmarried girls or married girls, but they're, this is a village and we're serious about how people should comport themselves. So Krishna can't meet with the gopis. He can't, nothing open can go on. So this is the first time that they get to just feast their eyes on Krishna for 7 days. He's standing there, and they have every excuse to just gaze at the beautiful transcendental form of Krishna, and no one can criticize them. So some of that was going on, and yeah. And if we read some of the books of the Acharyas, there's sort of this dialogue that's going on, and the hill's too heavy, and Krishna saying, no, it's light as a feather, just see. And I'm just trying to remember some of the things that go on. Sometimes it shakes a little bit, and everybody goes, So there's a whole range of additional pastimes. This is the pastime is presented in Bhagavatam, but the Acharyas have opened it up more and presented further details of what Krishna was doing with the Brajbasis during those 7 days. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Where do the acharyas get the extra bits of information?
Excuse me?
Where do the acharyas get the extra
Where do the
bits that they
acharyas get their
elaborate?
extra information?
Yeah.
They have, as far as I've seen, they have 2 sources. One is they look in other Puranas, they look in other Shastras, and they find additional information. That's one way, like they look in Harivamsa, they look here, they look there, they look in other Puranas, and they find more details, and so they bring that in. So that's one source that they have. The other is they have their own inspirations. They have their own self-realized understanding of what's going on there. And so they open these things up for us. It's in one sense, really, they're just looking at the words. But we see only one surface meaning. They look into those words and they see so much. It's like scientists, you look at an insect and you see, 6 legs and 2 wings and a couple of antennae. But they look under a big microscope and they see, all these things going on, all these intricate structures and all sorts of things that you don't see unless you have that microscope. So they're looking at the words and they're seeing, oh, there's so much in here that we don't see at first. So they're not just like wandering off into the wilderness with their own speculations, but they're mining the words of the Bhagavatam. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when explaining the Atmarama verse to Sanatana Goswami, Sanatana Goswami said, I heard that you explained this verse in 64 different ways to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Could you explain it to me also? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took him through all the same meanings, explanations. He said, by your association, I just thought of another meaning. And then he said that actually Bhagavatam, every word has unlimited meaning because every word of the Bhagavatam is identical with Krishna. And Krishna is unlimited. So in each verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can find unlimited meaning. So that's what the acharyas are doing. They're mining. They're mining the gems from each word of Srimad Bhagavatam and bringing the gems to the surface so that we can see them. Wherever the microphone's going. Switch.
Maharaj, I'm full of so many flaws, but how do I know that I'm chanting with my heart? And sometimes we go out to do street harinam. How do we know that we're chanting from our heart and we're also making others chant from their heart? Or are we causing them more damage? How do we know?
Well, you're never causing them more damage. If you weren't out there chanting, they'd just be hearing mundane sounds. So whatever we can do is a contribution. Whatever our lack of advancement or whatever, but we go and we chant and it's wonderful for people. And then if we're advanced in Krishna consciousness, then it's still more wonderful. But whatever we can do is a contribution. So that's the first thing. Now, how do we know? You'll know. When you go out and it's just how many more hours do I have to be? That means your heart's not quite into it. I want to get back in the van, it's cold, But when you're feeling happy to be chanting, when you're absorbed in the chanting, then you know that your heart is there. In the Bhagavatam it said, what is it? I think Maharaj also quoted this the other day, that when you're engaged in Krishna consciousness, then just as a person is feeling nourishment and satisfaction by eating, and you also feel that. You feel like, now I'm full. I don't have to eat anymore. No one has to give you a certificate. Yes, full. Is that okay? Hare Krishna.
Marsh, is the difference between mental speculation and minding the Bhagavatam, is the difference the qualification of the speaker?
Yeah, I was about to say, that's one difference. When you start coming up with all sorts of explanations, Mataji, you're speculating again. And when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does it, then it's like all glories to the acharyas. They're finding all these meanings. So, when we're on that platform, then we can do these things. Otherwise, according to our size, better for us to be a little careful and not go too far. Yeah, they're qualified. Like a geologist goes down in the mine and he sees so many things, and he can say, this is this, this is this, this is this. You and I go down in the mine and we say, well, I think this is this. I think this is. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question is related to the previous one. When you explained that there are two sources where acharyas took the explanations. But I also read somewhere, I'm not sure where, that actually because they are Nityasiddhas, they were actually present in those pastimes, so they saw what is going on there. So I'm not sure, is that correct, or
That's
it is
also
my speculation?
No, that's also there. The Siddha Sadhaka Rupena, there's a verse like that, it's quoted in Nectar of Instruction, that the perfected soul is doing devotional service in two different bodies. One is in the Sadhaka Rupa, the form of that you see, the form of a practicing devotee, and the other is in his spiritual transcendental form, in which he's participating in the pastimes of the spiritual world. So an acharya like Rupa Goswami is on that platform, so he can write from his transcendental experience also. That's also true. But even the acharyas, they won't say, not usually, the acharyas won't say, and this is what I saw in my, let me tell you what's happening in the spiritual world. I was just at a get together and this was going on, and they're not, they want to avoid being presumptuous and so on. So they'll quote books of grammar, they'll quote different shastras, but they're entitled to confidence because they're directly entitled to see these things. Yeah. But then you find that, here in Vrindavan, that people are just like, well, in the West we'd say shooting from the hip, but it's not the hip. They're sort of, everybody's in ecstasy, and so they're speaking from their own ecstasies. I remember there was one Babaji in Radhakund who used to show the devotees around, and he'd say, this is this, and this is that, and, according to this shastra and that shastra, and then he'd say, and this is this, and they would say, well, where's that? And he would say, that is my contribution. So the reliability of such a contribution is open to question. And particularly the Sahajiyas. The Sahajiyas are expert in just imagining various leelas of Krishna in which they're entitled to participate. And then they'll tell you all about it. I was picking flowers with Rupa Manjari, and then Krishna touched me on the shoulder, and then I can barely describe what happened next. And meanwhile, they've got a girlfriend and little bags of hashish and so on. But they're telling you from their own deeply experienced ecstasies. So these things are, therefore we find in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, how is Rupa Goswami presenting everything? Nana Shastra Vicharane Kanipano, Sattharma Samstapaka, establishing everything by evidence from Shastra. Not just winging it, not just saying this is my realization, this is my ecstasy, this is my this is my that. Nana Shastra Vichar. They were researchers. They would do research in these different shastras, and then they would present conclusive truths What were we reading? Something with Kadambakana and Marsh today. I forget what it was, but it was the same sort of thing where the acharyas were bringing in, all this information from this place and that place, and yeah, Shiva Goswami was writing about the Aborigine girls that we were reading about, and the kumkum couldn't have come from Lakshmi, because we read in such and such canto, in 10th canto, in such and such chapter, that Lakshmi couldn't gain entrance into Vrindavan. Right? She did austerities and everything, and still she couldn't get in. So the kumkum couldn't come from her. She's excluded. And then couldn't have been from Rukmini because she's in Dwarka. She doesn't get to enter into Vrindavan. And it couldn't have been from here. So finally he comes to the conclusion that it's from Srimati Radharani. But he doesn't just come out and say that on his own authority. He demonstrates it on the authority of Shastra, pulling different evidence from different places. So this is how the acharyas comment, because the experts in relishing Srimad Bhagavatam, if they're really expert, they don't want to hear, well, this is my ecstasy and this is my vision. They want to hear, why should I believe it? On what authority are you speaking? Prabhupada says the process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by authority. So that extends from the most basic conclusions all the way up to the exalted understandings. It comes from Shastra. And we may not immediately see it, but the acharyas will back themselves up with Shastric evidence. And then the hearers relish, pick this up from here. It's like in a good court case, if the lawyer's made his argument, and if he's really expert, he pulls something from this case and he pulls something from that case, and then there's a case nobody would have even thought of, and he's got a quote from that, and it's like, whoa, he just knocked the ball out of the park, as they say in American baseball. So that's how you make the judge blink in the court. You just have these amazing citations that are so apt and that your opposition hadn't even thought of. Or if they had thought of them, and it doesn't matter if they've thought or they've not thought, but you've made your case on the basis of authority. And so that's it. It's not just, Your Honor, I don't think this is fair. We don't care what you think is fair. We want to know what the higher courts have ruled, what the precedents are from other cases. Then we'll make our decision. Not just that, my clients are good people and they're being unfairly maligned or something. Show us the Shastra. So that's what the acharyas do. They speak from Shastra. And that way we have confidence. Yes, this is coming from authority. This is backed up. Mm-hmm.
Is it that the case with the late
Please speak in mind.
Is that the same with Raghunath Das Goswami with his?
With Raghunath Das Goswami?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
everybody.
also pulling up the
Mm-hmm.
or is he also doing that, giving the statements from the other shastras, especially in his late work, which I forgot the name. I was reading during Kartik, so but maybe I wasn't read from the bona fide authority, so I would like to check it out.
Well, the first thing is, I've hardly read much of Raghunath Das Goswami. Manashiksha I've read, which is really meant for everyone. But there's highly advanced literature that Raghunath Das Goswami is the Prayojana Acharya, the Acharya in regard to fulfillment of one's perfection in devotional service. And much of his writing, or some of his writing, let's say, much of it probably, is quite advanced, and advanced beyond my level. So I haven't done much reading in Raghunath Das Goswami, so I can't tell you much about what he's, how he's presenting
Because
things.
I had a feeling that he's like going into spiritual world and into material world very quickly. Like, what
It may
kind
be.
of-
All the Goswamis, Rup, Sanatan, and so on, they're all entitled, they're all qualified to do that. They can see they're experienced in both worlds. But you see Sanatan Goswami, that book I can speak from, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is also full of advanced information about our relationship with Krishna. And he tells the story about Gop Kumar, maybe you know, a cowherd boy who gradually advances step by step and comes to Vrindavan and goes to Vrindavan in the spiritual world and meets Krishna. And so many things are there. And you read it and say, is he imagining all these things? Or, where's all this coming from? But Sanatan Goswami's written his own commentary on the book, an auto commentary that he himself has written. And there you find all the proofs. Where's this coming from? So, Nana Shastra Vicharane Nipano. He's capable of understanding everything as a perfected soul. And yet he presents things according to Shastra. Even Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Hetumadbhi Vinishchitai. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is dealing with the subject matter of the nature of the soul, the nature of the material energy, and so on. And he says all of this has been explained by different authorities, especially in Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra. Hetumadbhi, with all logic as to cause and effect. Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva, this has all been described in the verses of the Brahma Sutra. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and yet he's quoting Vedanta Sutra as a source of authority. Or, of course, Prabhupada in Krishna book, My Dear Gopis, as I say in Bhagavad Gita. That's, Prabhupada's taking a little freedom with the text. But in the Bhagavad Gita itself, that's there. Krishna says, Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Hetumadbhi Vinishchitai. This has all been ascertained in various scriptures, especially Vedanta Sutra, with all kinds of logic as to cause and effect. So Krishna himself cites authority. Hare Krishna. Something else?
Yes, it's to do with the conversation. Was in Canto 2, I think, chapter 6.
Is it switched on?
Yes.
Then we'll give you more volume.
Sorry. So Brahma speaks the 4 verses, of the Bhagavatam to Narada Muni, and then he tells Narada Muni to expand on it. And then in the purport, Prabhupada said we must follow in the footsteps of the Acharya and also expand this knowledge. So you've kind of spoken about how the Acharyas expanded. So how would we expand it? Because we can't, I guess, read all of the scriptures that they.
But you expanded by teaching the next person. In context of the time and the place, and we make it relevant for the audience. Just like our devotees, they're writing articles for Back to Godhead. They're writing books, so they're not just cutting and pasting from Shastra, but they're taking conclusions from Shastra and quotations from Shastra, and then representing them in some context. An article about this, an article about that, an article, but really it's just Like Prabhupada, he wrote an article about matter and antimatter. So really, he's just representing the conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam, but in a modern context. In a modern context. And he wanted his disciples to do that also. He said, "What is this back to Godhead for?" Something else?
Often when we're out preaching or trying to cultivate someone, the argument comes up, where did you get it from? And then we say, yeah, from the Shastra, and you make a quote, but then they say, oh, I don't believe that that is spotless or that is errorless. It's still made by man. And so then it sort of stops the discussion because they don't believe the source where we get the information from. What could we do in that moment?
Well, you just consider it. That's all. Because the people we meet, they're not, what does it mean? No, it's not from, it's not from a source I accept. All right, it's not from a source, but see if you find something interesting. For them. For a person who's who's serious about the laws of evidence and all of that, all right, we'll go head to head with you, toe to toe with you about that. Why the Puranas should be accepted or why this or that. These people on the street in the West, they're just being arrogant. Why should I accept? They're just being contrary. To be blunt about it and to be nice about it. Okay, they want to see evidence, they want to see proof, they want to see. But when it comes to sense gratification, they don't ask for that. So we have to coax them along. That, all right, wherever it comes from, but you'll find it interesting, just on its own strength. Just read it and see what you think. There's, really good ideas here. One way or another, you take it.
Marsh, I'm wondering.
Just another argument that, but very advanced people and people who are advanced in spiritual life and people who are advanced in spiritual culture have read these books for thousands of years and they've gotten value from it. Or even great thinkers of the modern day, Thoreau and Emerson and Gandhi and so on. They've read this book and gotten value. So, like Bank of America, why should I bank there? Well, I'm not going to walk you through all the security procedures they have in place for guarding your money. But that's where the Rockefellers put their money. That's where Bill Gates is keeping money, So when all these men who are bigger than you are putting their millions there, maybe it's okay for you to put $10,000 with confidence in Bank of America. Yes.
Marsh, I'm thinking about the Saraswati Vrat and the reason for it. Is it that because the devotees can't bear hearing Krishna blasphemed? Or is it just like to make the Shastra
Why
taste?
is it that we look for this Saraswati Vak? Is it that the devotees can't bear reading blasphemy of Krishna? Or, I'm not there in the minds of these acharyas. I suspect that they're really just, as we say, grooving. That they're just enjoying like anything. That's my suspicion, because it's so cool, the things that they do. So I think they're really enjoying. They have knowledge of grammar. They have knowledge of all these laws of composition, and now they're able to use them all to glorify Krishna. So I suspect that they're just enjoying like anything. And especially since, yes, they're defending Krishna's honor, they're sort of joining forces. Indra, take that, you know. And also, as we go on, the acharyas are building on the previous acharyas. So you'll see Jiva Goswami is offering a contribution, but he starts by, you know, as he's building his case, he says, Sridhar Swami says this, and this, and this, and this, and then he takes it further. So they're not just launching on their own strength, but they're building on the statements of respected authorities. So that's also part of what they're doing. And sometimes, very often, in fact, they're just repeating what the previous acharyas have said. You read some of the commentaries, and really it's just the same thing said by the previous acharya in different words, or nearly the same words. Rabindra Swarup Prabhu once quipped that in the material world we call that plagiarism. And in the spiritual world, we call it parampara. Something else? Yes.
Maharaj, what causes one?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, what causes one to forget? In the case of Indra, he was in the beginning when Brahmaji went to seashore to pray to Krishna to appear, Indradev was there. And even when all the demigods were praying to Mother Devaki, when Krishna was inside the womb of Mother Devaki, Indradev was there. But still he forgot that Krishna is Supreme Lord. And even when Krishna was taking Parijata tree, that time Indra came to fight. So what causes one to forget?
What causes one to forget? The one answer is that intoxication causes one to forget. Indra becomes intoxicated by false pride, by opulence, bhogaishaya prasaktana, by pride. And so he thinks that, you know, I riding on my elephant shoulders, and becomes proud. So that causes one to forget. We forget we get a little bit of money or a little bit of, you know, a young girl smiling at us, or we get a little, a few sips of wine or something, and pretty soon we think we're the, you know, we're demigods, and we forget, you know, that we're just poor, miserable, suffering souls. Who was it? Nalakubra and Manigriva. They, you know, what happened to them? They were sons of a cultured family, but they got intoxicated first by taking intoxicants, and then young girls that'll intoxicate the hell out of you. So they forgot even to how to behave decent. So that's one answer. And another answer is that Krishna, by his internal energy, bewilders even the demigods, muyanti yat surya. So when Krishna wants to teach a lesson, he can do these things also. Matas smritir jnanam upovanam chat. So he can cause forgetfulness when he wants for a good purpose. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji. Maharaj, you said that perfected souls have two bodies, one in the spiritual world and another in the material world, performing
Vaidhi Bhakti. So one who is not a Nitya Siddha can also practicing sometime have two bodies.
Yes, the sadhan siddhas also.
Sadhak Siddha who was not a Nitya Siddha, but after practicing some time, now
Sometime means not, 3 weeks in the brahmacharya ashram.
not like this. Means he has become perfect. So
Yes.
he is serving his spiritual world, and at the same time he is here, and he was not a Nitya Siddha.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Sadhana siddha also is in similar position.
Yes. So he can also see pastimes of Lord Krishna.
Siddha, whether nitya siddha or sadhana siddha, kripa siddha, siddha is siddha after all. Perfect. How you became perfect, that's another question, whether you're eternally perfect or you gained perfection by practice or had perfection bestowed upon you, but you're perfect. If you're perfect, you can occupy the post, as it were.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. Marsh, on Indra's forgetfulness, okay, there's the aspect that it could be Krishna's arrangement, but besides that, is it that he doesn't recognize Krishna? Because they approach Vishnu, is it that they don't recognize Krishna as a supreme?
That's also there, that Brahma was thinking that how could he be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He's just a little kid with some yogurt and rice in his hands. And Indra's thinking he's just a talkative boy in this village, and they're all listening to him and giving him great importance. So otherwise, Indra knows that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality. He's the older brother of Lord Vamandev, so he knows that the Supreme Person, I'm the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then he sees Krishna. He thinks he's an ordinary human being, Martya. He's a human being and becomes bewildered.
But then does it mean that when the demigods accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they may not see as Krishna the original person, they're accepting Mahavishnu or...
Yeah, they may not, even the demigods may not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They may know, they may not know. Sometimes they may know and sometimes they may not know. As you said, Indra was there when offering prayers when Krishna is within the womb. And he's there when Krishna is returning the earrings of Aditi. And yet he's enraged when Krishna walks off with the Parijata flower, the Parijata plant. So this is, so even the demigods become bewildered. Muyanti Surya. Shall we stop here and have kirtan? And we have a mridanga here someplace. Thank you. Right there, okay. Are you leading? Okay. Oh, then I can.
Nama Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatayine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Radha Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. It looks like there's some serious prasadam for you all today.